This is very similar to the way gold behaved when it first broke through 3,000. Yes, it wasn't a line in the sand where gold didn't go below 3,000. This would be record highs.
Peter Schiff just dropped a massive warning. After returning from the New Orleans Investment Conference, he says gold near $4,000 isn't the top. It's just the beginning. While investors panic and sell, Schiff believes we're about to see a breakout to $5,000 gold. And as Bitcoin slips below $100,000, he calls it a sinking ship. This might be the final wake-up call. Gold and silver could be the only lifeboats left. Stay tuned, because what Schiff reveals next will shake your confidence in the dollar itself.
And I expected the mood to be even more jubilant than it was, considering how much the price of gold had risen between the conference a year ago and the conference this past week, and in particular, the gold mining stocks, because it's really a conference dominated by mining stocks. Almost all the exhibitors in the exhibit hall are gold and silver mining companies, with a few others, thrown in there, but the vast majority are mining companies, and pretty much all the attendees invest in gold and silver mining companies, in addition to the physical metal. And, given where we were, I expected even more enthusiasm than I saw. Yeah, I think it was a little bit more upbeat than it was a year ago when there was a lot more despair and frustration. And, of course, a year ago was a great time to be buying gold and silver stocks. But I heard a lot of people talking about taking profits, selling. There was some worried people about the drop. Gold had almost hit 4,400, and they're talking about that big drop, and maybe it's going lower, which, of course, is what happens in a bull market. You get these violent sell-offs to scare people out. But the bottom line is gold's $4,000 an ounce. In fact, it closed the week almost right at $4,000 an ounce again. Yes, we haven't traded below 3,900. The lowest I've seen gold was in the lower 3,900s, 3,920, 3,930. And it's gotten above 4,000. I think it got to 4,020, 4,030 this week. It's been hanging out at that area. This is very similar to the way gold behaved when it first broke through 3,000. Yes, it wasn't a line in the sand where gold didn't go below 3,000, but it didn't go much below 3,000, and eventually it took off and then went above 4,000. I think we're doing the same thing now. I think we're forming a base right around 4,000, and before you know it, we'll be at 5,000. But meanwhile, a lot of investors aren't going to own gold for that ride because they're getting shaken out now because they're getting so nervous. The atmosphere and the attitude at the gold conference is the opposite, really, of the Bitcoin conference that I went to in May. Oh, and by the way, I am going to be going to the Bitcoin Binance blockchain conference in Dubai in early December. I'm going there to have my debate with CZ over gold, tokenized gold versus Bitcoin. So that'll be another conference I'm going to. They're expected 25,000 people. We had, 35,000, or they had 35,000, 40,000 people at the Vegas Bitcoin conference. We didn't even have 1,000 people at the gold conference, despite the fact that that conference has been going on for now 51 years, right? This is the oldest continuous gold conference in the U.S., and it doesn't even attract 1,000 investors. Obviously, this is not the bubble that the media is portraying it to be. The bubble is in crypto, and the air, by the way, is coming out. Bitcoin got back below 100,000 today and this week. This is the first time since June that we've been below 100,000. Now, there was some buying. I think the entire crypto community is kind of circling the wagons here, trying to defend 100,000. And they were able to pop the market back up to around 104,000. But to me, this is a big bear market. I think once we really break maybe 98,000, 97, get some distance between Bitcoin and 100,000, it's just going to sink like a stone. If the crypto stocks are a leading indicator, they are getting slaughtered. Every stock that is any way related to crypto is way down. At least 40 or 50%, if not 60 or 70%, even the leader of the pack, Strategy, hit a 52-week low this morning, and it was down 60% from its 52-week high. Now, it recovered. I think it closed down around 52% from that high. But this is the best stock, right? This is the poster boy for crypto companies, treasury company. And it's been cut in half in what's supposedly, the best environment ever for crypto, with the entire Trump administration behind crypto. In fact, Donald Trump, when he was on 60 Minutes this week, and he basically said that the only thing he cares about is that the United States lead the world in crypto. I mean, that's his main concern, right? According to Donald Trump. Yet despite all that, and he actually bragged on this show, and I'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that he said on the show, but he actually bragged about how right he was on crypto and the crypto industry being so important and being so vital, and that, we must beat China. We can't let China win in crypto. I mean, China doesn't give a damn about winning in crypto, right? That's not even on their bingo card. They'll let us have that market. What do they care? Who wants to lead the world in decentralized Ponzi schemes and pyramids, right? That's an American thing. The Chinese don't want any part of that. They want to invest their money productively. They want to make things that people actually need. I think gold is forming a nice base here at 4,000. Silver, it's not, at 50, but it ain't much below it. It's around $48 and change. I mean, it's holding pretty steady, very close to $50. It's not tanking back down to 40. So I think, again, this is another opportunity, just like when silver was around 30, and I was saying 30 is the new 20. 50 is really the new 30. I mean, yeah, you could buy it a little bit below, but for who knows how long. So buy yourself some physical gold and silver at Schiff Gold. The gold mining stocks, again, a lot of these stocks are now in bear markets. It is amazing how far off their highs most of these gold and silver mining stocks are, even though gold is almost 4,000. Even though silver is almost 50, these stocks have lost almost all of their gains, since gold was, I think, 3,600, 3,700. Since silver was 40. A lot of these stocks are back down to where they were when silver was 40, even though it's 50. And they're just so scared because, well, it was 54, so it's going down. So what? It was 54 for like a day. I mean, if you took that 1 week out, we'd be at the highs. Right? I mean, where we are right now is, a month ago, this would be record highs for gold and silver a month ago. Yet there's so much bearishness among investors. And there's not nearly enough bearishness among crypto investors. They're completely complacent. They're happy as clip. They're not worried at all that Bitcoin is going down. They think it's on sale. Hey, it's $100,000. It's on sale. On sale, you're buying nothing and you're paying $100,000. The sale is on gold and silver. And where the sale is whatever you would buy if you just sold your Bitcoin up here. But people don't want to sell it so much that they're going to borrow against it, where they're gonna sell it. It's just going to be sold out from under them at a much lower price than if they just sold it right now. So get your gold and silver, buy these mining stocks. My gold fund, the Euro Pacific Gold Fund, EP, in the years ahead. But in particular, this is a time to be adding to the gold stocks. And if you don't have any gold stocks, well, now's the time to incorporate them. You've got a gift horse pullback, a dip, a pretty big one, as an opportunity to buy. There's a lot of opportunities right now in the mining space, and they've improved significantly over the last couple of weeks as a lot of fear has gone through the market as a result of a correction that barely reduced the price. We corrected to 4,000 gold, not from 4,000. And silver has corrected, and it's almost 50. So it's a very, very strong market, and the strength is being greatly underappreciated, even by the diehard gold bugs and silver bugs. And so when you have that kind of skepticism among the true believers, just imagine what you got out there among the investing public. And so Trump is probably happy that the bad news isn't being delivered. But in addition to blaming Powell for the recession. Say, look, everything was great, but the damn Fed screwed it all up. If they had only cut rates like I told them, right? Because Trump has said he knows more than anybody at the Fed, right? He should really be in charge of the Fed because he's that smart. But unfortunately, we have these low IQ people, and they don't know what they're doing, and they haven't cut rates. So he could blame the Fed that if it wasn't for the Fed, we'd have a great economy. We had a great economy, but the Fed ruined it, right, by not cutting rates. But now he's going to have the Supreme Court as another scapegoat because the Supreme Court strikes down his tariffs. The economy is in recession. Maybe officially the numbers come out. And Trump says the Supreme Court did it. We had this great economy, and the Supreme Court pulled the rug out from under it. They put a knife in it by doing such a reckless and irresponsible thing as repealing, my signature issue, right? They keep saying that, hey, the Supreme Court should give Trump some leeway here because he campaigned on this. This is his signature issue. It doesn't matter. If his signature issue is unconstitutional, it's unconstitutional. You got to take the politics out of it. The Supreme Court is not supposed to decide whether or not the tariffs are good or bad. The Supreme Court is supposed to decide, are the tariffs taxes, which they are taxes, and does the president have the power to impose them? And I don't care if you want to claim it's an emergency, right? Because if the president can tax something simply because he claims something is an emergency, what are his emergencies? Fentanyl is an emergency. The trade deficits. We've had trade deficits for 50 years, and now the trade deficit is an emergency, right? Who knows what kind of climate emergency, right? The Democrats, hey, there's a climate emergency. Oh, the president's going to enact a wealth tax or whatever kind of tax because we have a climate emergency. What are we going to do? Well, the president now has broad powers to tax whoever he wants. Doesn't have to go through Congress because we've just declared a climate emergency, right? Who knows, right? Obviously, you can't concoct a fake emergency to try to usurp powers that you don't have, right? I mean, most of the Constitution has already been torn up and thrown out, right? But at least let's abide by this. This is pretty clear and pretty obvious where the taxing authority lies in the Congress and that a tariff is a tax. And in fact, when Trump is bragging about all the revenue that he's collecting, you collect revenue from taxes, right? The revenue is proof that the tariffs are a tax, right? Maybe if there was no revenue associated with tariffs, he'd have a better argument that they're not a tax. But of course, that's exactly what they are. But it's going to give Trump yet another scapegoat. Anyway, that's it for today's podcast. Again,
if Peter Schiff's warning got you thinking, don't just scroll away. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon so you never miss his next big prediction about gold, silver, and the U.S. economy. Because the storm is building, and every insight from Schiff could be the one that saves your portfolio.